I'm a biologist. This is my brother Trent, merely a chemist, and we are the Bourbon Brother Whiskey Nerds. Trent, it's Fresh Crack Friday!
As if you needed more reason to like Fridays. Now you have more. And as we like to say, we don't give a crap what day it is where you are. Maybe
I can't
you
promise.
had a busy weekend. You had to go see the significant other's family. We don't know what sort of life you're leading. You had a busy weekend or something. So maybe you're watching this on Monday or Tuesday after a long weekend.
If you're drinking,
we still welcome you. We're Fresh Cracking this on a Friday here on the channel, and we have a nice one here.
This one,
an interesting bottle.
This is interesting. This showed up at Fine Wine and Good Spirits in Pennsylvania.
It's sort of everywhere. You see people on the social media talking about it.
And ASW Distillery has kind of burst onto the scene here recently, and they are doing some nice things. They won some awards. So this is their Fiddler Toasted Wheat.
Based in Atlanta, Georgia. This is a distillery that does a lot of sourcing from MGP.
And this is sourced from MGP. This is a very unique mash bill. And depending on where you're at in your bourbon journey, you will begin to seek out unique and interesting things, which I think we kind of like.
Right, exactly.
We enjoy that. So this is 51% corn, 45% rye, and 4% malted
45% wheat.
Pardon me, 45% wheat, thank you, and 4% malted barley. So double the wheat of most wheated bourbon.
It's a very interesting idea to put so much wheat in a whiskey. That should soften it.
Correct.
It should make it
sweeten it, perhaps a little bit.
But different than a corn
sweetness. It's different than a corn sweetness. It's going to be like wheat bread sweetness.
Right.
And that honey roast.
Honey would be a good note.
So this is unique in that they initially barrel it in a very char barrel. This is a char 1. And then they finish it. It was in char 1 for 7 years. And then they finished it technically in a toasted barrel for, I think, 4 months.
4 months.
With a heavy toast.
You have to be fair, all of the info is on the bottle. So good job to ASW.
Yeah.
Okay.
We love it when distilleries put everything we want to know on the bottle.
We want the bourbon to taste good. We don't care what comes from. We want the juice to be good. We are very easy to please here. We don't care who you are. We don't care where you are. We want you to make good whiskey. And so, but the truth in advertising here is nice. 7 years.
Yeah.
It's got a nice late stage.
It does. 7 years plus 4 months.
4 months in 7 years in the char 1.
Yep.
And then a heavy toast. Again, getting into the weeds a little bit here, but when they burn a bourbon barrel, when they char a bourbon barrel, they can char it at different levels. A lot of the levels go up to like level 4 char. I think that's what it goes up to. That's even beyond an alligator char where it sort of looks like alligator skin. You'll hear distilleries talk about this sometimes. That's where they actually take it so far that the barrel comes very close to being irrecoverable.
Right? It won't hold liquid.
It wouldn't hold bourbon anymore, right? And so this comes sometimes they do that. This was only in char 1, but then they put it in a heavy toast.
And you were telling me something interesting, that the level of toast is inverse to what it does to the whiskey.
I watched, and again, we hope you're watching the channel. We hope you're watching the channel. Please like, subscribe, share. Make sure you tell all your friends and neighbors and strangers on the street about it. But don't just watch us. Watch other whiskey tube people. We have nothing but mad respect for those individuals. We watch those channels.
Mm-hmm.
What are we, insane? Of course we watch those people. They're really good. And watched one of those channels, did a really good job talking about the science. Nerd now.
Nerd
aging. And how when you heavy char, it actually begins to act a little bit like a carbon brittle filter.
Ooh.
When you heavy char,
so it's
you actually
flavor
take flavor out as opposed to put flavor in.
Interesting.
This is the toast industry in a nutshell.
And toasted rye bourbons have burst on the scene. And
everybody has a toast.
I don't know as if you and I have had one. So I think technically by rights we could call this a double O.
Well, I don't. I mean, I think what sells more, double oak or toast, right?
Well,
Like,
toasted because it sounds cooler, but
maybe.
that's besides.
I don't know. Well, I do know that they're based in Atlanta, Georgia. ASW. They are very good. Apparently, all of their whiskey is pot stilled, as opposed
Interesting.
to
As opposed to
column
column
stilled.
stilled.
In theory, that should give you more flavor.
It should.
right?
Yep.
Column still. If you're making a vodka or a gin, you're going to column still because now you're effectively taking all of the flavor out.
Yeah.
Right.
With vodka, you
making a
essentially
neutral
want
spirit,
a
right?
neutral spirit.
You want a neutral spirit. Now with gin, they're putting some flavor back in.
Pretty solid proof point on this too, Trent.
60.8 alcohol by volume.
121.
Once you're over 120, that is.
So,
Woo.
we're going to crack this right here and right now for you. I ripped the little cellophane off just so I didn't look like a moron on the channel.
Yeah, that happened to me once. I'm sure everyone remembers it. Great fun.
I should do the little tip of.
I'm excited to taste our first toasted.
So it is
offering.
indeed a fresh crack.
So I have heard good things about ASW. Boy, that's pouring real nicely. It has a nice little legs to it, a nice darkness to it, and it's interesting. You don't see a lot of high proof weededs out there.
Yeah, it's tough to find. I mean, Larceny Barrel Proof, of course, comes to mind.
Sometimes,
and then Heaven Hill Bernheim has a wheat whiskey, which is 51%.
Well, that's
wheat.
100%.
I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but we're going to dive into this and we're going to go.
Troy.
Oh my.
Boy, first of all, the oak coming off of this. Really nice sweetness, vanilla, maple syrup.
Maple syrup comes to mind, yes. Praline. Toasted pecans with caramel.
There's a nutty note.
There is a nutty note.
And as big Jim Beam fanboys, we're not going to hate on nutty notes.
You know, I got to say, for 60.8 ABV, the proof is tame.
I'm getting a little bit of alcohol, but it's not overwhelming by any stretch. Oh, by the way, what's the proof point? What's the price point on this?
Oh, $79.
So $80. We'll have to see. What I want when I'm buying a $60 bourbon is I want it to taste like a $60 bourbon. When I'm drinking an $80 bourbon, I want it to taste like an $80 bourbon. I got to tell you, the
sweet notes are really starting to come through on here. Lots of darker sweetness, molasses, graham cracker,
almost a
toffee, butterscotch.
Yes, all of these are good notes. I feel like it reads well. It's got some legs. It reads as it's going to have some nice oily mouth feel. Boy, the smell here is just bananas good. It's really good. All right, folks. Cheers. We're going to dive in. What's that surprising note back of the palate?
Is it chocolate?
It might be. It's tame. Boy, this drink's really interesting. The nose did not give me the palate here.
I get a burst of the sweetness.
Right, no, and that's good. And then there's
now that maple note's coming on the back end.
That mid palate.
There's something on the mid palate that I can't quite place. Trent is correct.
Is it nutty?
It could be that nutty toffiness coming through.
Is that the toast? Boy,
you know what? As you can probably tell, because we got a little bit quiet, we're thinking here. And
yeah, I'm trying to do my job. Give some tasting.
Like I do. Like
I like the whiskey.
I get on
the
a lot.
Finish is nice.
I get those cinnamon notes on the finish, like I get from a lot of wheated bourbons.
I'm getting some peppery oak. The finish is nice and a word we're not supposed to say. Smooth. Some oak.
You know what the winner is so far? The mouthfeel. This is oily, and viscous, and creamy.
Boy, the winner for me might be the nose, but there.
Is it barrel funk on that mid palate coming in?
It's something, and I can't place it. And that, oh my, the finish. I got a lot more finish on my second sip than I did on my first. I agree with Troy. Punch of sweetness, that praline, by far the best.
Yeah, praline, pecan.
There's a nuttiness.
Like, think of pecan pie at Thanksgiving.
If you're into pecan
If you
pie.
like pecan pie.
If you don't like pecan pie, it's almost because it's too sweet. This almost reads as an incredibly sweet bourbon.
You know,
on the initial
I
sip.
think on the
And
I
then-
agree with you, but I think that baking
Then it
spice note
subsides. Right.
comes back, and I think the proof helps with that.
Right.
The proof does help to bring some of
you
those.
got some Kentucky hug.
Yep.
And some cinnamon notes. The cinnamon, I didn't get it in my first sip. A lot of weeders, we get cinnamon notes. Sometimes a very pleasing note, right? Like really, Rebel drinks very cinnamon heavy, just as an example, of a weeded bourbon with some nice cinnamon notes. And we don't dislike it. Like Rebel in high proof is a buy. But this is, maybe it's the toastiness, because there's something back palate that I'm getting. I'm going to need to pour myself another sip and see if I can do this expertly.
I don't know if it's the toasted that's bringing this to my mind, but the toasted marshmallow over a campfire comes to mind.
Maybe it is.
I'm going to pour just a tiny bit more of this.
There's the punch of sweetness. Now I have to wait. Man, what is that? It's not bad, but is it barrel funk? Is it barrel char? Is that where you're getting campfire? Is it marshmallowy?
You know, now I get a touch of a fruit note, like a dark cherry.
That's not bad. Chocolate wasn't even a terrible note. What is this bourbon? All right.
Well, I'm going to tell you. This, as we like to say, is intricate and interesting. And this makes you think.
I want to pour more. It's an intelligent bourbon.
It's what I think they did with the relatively high wheat percentage, that 45%.
Right.
Well, they needed to counteract that, because I think if they had not bottled this at cask strength,
It would have been
so sweet.
It would have been boring.
Like
almost.
cloyingly
Right,
sweet.
right. It would have been
But it's
boring.
not. It's not a cloyingly sweet. I think it reads sweet. It is a sweeter bourbon. It drinks sweet.
Well, and you knew that going in to an extent with the 45% rye. There was no rye.
45%
wheat. There's no rye in this bourbon, so it wasn't going to read spicy, right? But the cinnamon notes as a spice note, almost sometimes like cinnamon red hot.
Yeah.
In some
Really
bourbons.
intense.
But that note, mid to back palate, right before the finish, and the finish is nice. Boy, the reason to buy this is because it's interesting.
Yeah.
This, I feel like we're gonna need two things that it's hard to be. We're gonna need some patience. Now that we've cracked it, it's gonna need to sit. We're gonna need to not touch it for a couple weeks. Let it open up, maybe 10 days.
Yeah.
You can't help yourself. 10 days, let it open up. We'll see what it offers. Once some air gets in there. Troy and I are not big fans of what people call the fresh crack syndrome. I think a lot of that
is in your head.
In your head, right? Like you really want to like it, so you do, or you want to be disappointed, so you are. You have to wait for it to open up.
I feel like this is a thoughtful bourbon.
And in that way, good for them.
Yeah.
And maybe it is the toast. Troy and I don't drink a lot of finished toasted bourbons. We certainly don't drink finished bourbons. As a matter of fact, I think it would be fair to say that we are sort of against finished bourbons.
By and large.
Bourbons finished in...
If you have something that you've had that you've liked, let us know in the comments.
Right.
We'll pick up a bottle.
We can figure it out, right?
We'll figure it out.
But like a port finish or like a sherry finish or whatever.
Again, what I think about...
This is just a toasty finish,
and
I still can't figure it out.
This is an interesting, complex pour that I think needs some time to open up. We need to revisit it. We need to digest it.
And again, all of this makes
good.
it sound like I don't like
No,
it, and that's not true
it.
at all.
That's
I really
not-
do
I
like
really
it.
do enjoy it.
What makes this, I will say something. If this is a $65 bourbon, it's a buy all day long. What makes it, the difference between that $65 and $80 price tag will be what happens when it opens up.
Correct.
Because if that interesting note remains, that is the note. It's not quite, just as an example, there are bourbons that we've drank, just as something we both have a lot of knowledge of. The Four Roses single barrel proof.
Yes.
These are ones you pour when the wife's out of town for the weekend. And so you're bacheloring it, and it's a Friday after a long work week. And so you pour yourself 2.5 ounces, and you just try to dissect it over 2 hours. Because what's anybody going to do to you? You're alone.
That's right.
And this bourbon needs that. It needs that amount of
Needs some
thought.
pontification.
It does. And we excel at pontificating.
We do. Yes, we do.
Now it's not the time. This needs some time. But good for ASW for treating a sourced product. Again, sourcing is controversial. There are NDPs, non-distilling producers, that do nothing. They don't distill their own spirit ever. Lots of times. And what I think I like to say about non-distilling producers is I want them to do something with the bourbon. When they get the juice that they source, I like it when they do something. Well, these people certainly did something. First of all, it's got some age on it. 7 years.
Yeah, the oak is definitely
it rings
present.
true.
It rings true.
There's oak on this bourbon. And they finished it.
But
they put it in a
sweetness is really pleasing. And
it's not overly sweet. Now it could be, but
it could be, and I think the proof helps to restrain some of that sweetness for you. I feel like this, for me, depending on what happens to it, is going to be a mood pour. This might be an after dinner. I want to sit with it. I perhaps
explore
it. I want to pontificate over it, and quite frankly, sometimes I pour stuff and I just let it permeate in the air for 20, 30 minutes.
Well, right. It's like having,
it's like having a candle of bourbon lit. It's wonderful.
You know those potpourri things?
Just pour
that your wife gets? No, screw that. Tell her to turn off the freaking incense, you woo-woo person. And instead, just open some bourbon and just let it
pour it in a glass and let it permeate the air. But we are going to revisit this.
This is a really,
on the channel.
Really, I will say this, Troy, without us being overly egotistical, we're not stupid people. Like you have an advanced science degree, I have an advanced science degree. And so the fact that I don't quite get this whiskey yet bugs me. But it's sort of exciting, right? Like this company has somehow made a bourbon that I don't quite get. I feel like I can't truly explain it. We've tried to give you some notes, very sweet. Nice finish. The finish is nice. The nose on this bourbon for me is the
very
highlight.
Inviting and welcoming. I think the
it doesn't read quite the same on the palate as the nose, which makes a whiskey very interesting. But
they
boy,
did a good job hiding the proof there too.
So well done.
It's well composed, and there was clearly some thought put into creating something.
Troy and I like it when the skill of the people doing it comes through.
Absolutely.
And as my first ASW product, and you can buy their flagship product, ASW Fiddler. It's their Wild Turkey 101. They're not Greek 9, right? It's their flagship offering, and they call it the Fiddler, and that's great. Go get some. Heck, send us a sample. You don't have to send us whiskey, but we have plenty. But now, if you want to, send us some. But this is that stepped up, right? I imagine that if I take
that with the dial turned
up. Right, it's this with the dial turned up, and it's finished and toast. Maybe it's my lack of experience with toast. Maybe I am getting a toasty flavor on that note.
It could again, I think
it's going to be the first 30-minute Fresh Crack Friday. We don't get it.
Yeah, I know. The reason we're having trouble is because it's really interesting, and I like that.
Oh, I'm digging the fact that these people have made a bourbon that I can't get. And
Kudos to ASW. for
Right.
putting something out that's a little bit unique, a little bit craft,
Right.
if you will.
well, and it doesn't taste young.
No.
It's certainly not thin. No way,
Oh,
shape,
no.
matter, or form.
I think the mouthfeel is one of the most pleasing things about it. How does
For
your
me,
mouth
it's
feel
the note.
about it?
How my mouth feels better than a mouth has ever felt. We've lost the thread.
I know.
folks. We've lost the thread.
We need to close this out.
That must be the news for today.
Yeah, that's
folks.
right.
So
We need to close this out, but I'm saying we're going to come back to this.
I cannot say at this point for $80 this is a must buy. But if you've got a $60 bourbon in your hand and you're feeling maybe you got a nice paycheck last week,
Worked a
You're
little overtime.
you're feeling like you could afford the $80 bourbon, and you're willing to taste something that you don't have. Because I will be very surprised if somebody comes up with a comp for this
No,
whiskey.
that
You
would be-
don't own a whiskey like this.
Yeah.
No matter how much whiskey you own, unless you own this, you don't have a whiskey like this. I can't put it together, and I dig the heck out of it. Big believer.
Kudos to ASW for putting something out there
My
that's
gracious.
different. So
It's really interesting.
I think we're going to close this out with
Yep.
a commitment to the channel viewers that we're going to revisit this.
We have to revisit a lot of things.
We do.
That'll be a disaster of an episode. We'll
I know.
revisit all these great bourbons and
It'd
figure out
be
what
terrible.
they are.
But
Yeah.
in the
Twist
mean-
our arms,
I know.
why don't you?
In the meantime, stop. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe. So many of you are watching and not subscribing. Why?
What the heck is
It's
wrong with
free.
you? It's
It
like
helps us tremendously.
It's like we're charging you,
and we
we're
need
not.
you to do it. We want you to do it because we want you to know what we're putting out there. And at the same time, drink what you like.
Like what you drink.
Cheers, everybody.